series of questions from the audience. I'm told that we had a great many questions, so we only selected 8 of them to read here because our time is limited, unfortunately. But thank you all for your very thoughtful questions. Remember now that candidates only have 2 minutes to answer. Some questions may be directed at 1 or 2 candidates, but each will have a chance to respond. And I don't think that's actually the case here. I think they're all for all of you. So question number 1, we're going to start off with Mr. Massey. Given the attack on net neutrality, what will you do to bring fast, affordable internet to the hill towns and passenger rail along the Route 2 corridor?
Well, I am so glad you asked this question because one of the things that is key to the development of Western Massachusetts is investment in the infrastructure which will allow us to halt the departure of young people and make it possible for new businesses to either come here or to be here. And I tell you something, I did not understand when I first started coming out here last spring just how deep the inequity is. I mean, honestly, one of the first meetings I went to was in Northampton. People brought up the question of internet, and I said, wow, is that still a problem out here? And I got this huge shock. Now, that's really shocking. I mean, think about it. It's, at this point, having access to the internet is an essential component. So what we need to do is, first of all, we need to put pressure to speed up the completion of the last mile. I don't understand why that hasn't been done. I also think we need to consider creating more, not only municipal power companies, but municipally controlled internet companies, which we can do. I was at Holyoke Gas and Electric. They provide internet for commercial internet there under local control. So that's an important thing. Transportation is the key. Every other major industrial society has built transportation systems to meet the 21st century. The Chinese have invested so that they now have 15,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. You know how many we have in the United States? 0. And so we need not only, and I'll tell you something, we're having an impact on the governor because I've been saying for 8 months we need a long-term transportation plan that solves the problem for the whole state and including east-west so that we can go from Boston to Worcester to Springfield, out across here and all the way to Albany. And you know what? 2 days ago, Karen Polito announced that they were going to form a commission to look at the possibility of a 10-year plan for this. That's study and stall. That's what this governor does. That's the potted plant. That's why we need to have a enforcement government to move.
And next is Mr. Gonzalez. I think you need to repeat the question. Please.
No, that's all right. So let's just be clear about the fact, Bob referenced this, Western Mass has been shafted for a very long time.
Yes.
When it comes to getting your fair share of infrastructure investment. Access to broadband and high-speed internet, it is totally unacceptable that that is not in place now. We started the initiative under the Patrick administration. I was a part of the broadband initiative to begin to wire everybody across Western Massachusetts and other parts of the state that weren't served. I can't believe it's not done yet. It needs to get done. High-speed rail from Springfield, the extending the Route 2 rail. We need to be thinking about these transformational transportation investments that can make a meaningful difference from an economic development perspective, a quality of life perspective for people in Western Massachusetts. We also need to do the basics, fixing the roads and bridges. I will say I'm the only candidate in this race that's actually had leadership experience in state government, being in charge of some of this stuff, and actually turning the tide on some of it. I mentioned in my opening remarks a number of investments that I authorized right here in Greenfield. The Garden Theater renovation, when that renewal project started in 2012. The courthouse, the $60 million courthouse project. I developed the financing program for the Accelerated Bridge program. Even during the Great Recession, very tough times for the state, we figured out a way, creatively, to come up with a $3 billion program to start to turn the tide on structurally deficient bridges all across the state, including in Western Mass, that had been neglected for decades thanks to Charlie Baker's Pt5 finance plan that sucked all the resources out of every other part of the state to cover the cost overruns on the big dig. I've been there. I figured out how to provide financing in order to move forward on important projects here in Western Massachusetts. And as your governor, I'll be honest about the fact we need additional revenue to do so, and I'll build on that experience to make sure we're continuing to make investments here.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Warren?
So I've been to Western Mass many times over the last several months. I've heard from residents, I've heard from businesses, I've heard from people that commute, I've heard from people that don't commute. It is absolutely essential that we have a solid internet broadband infrastructure here. We cannot go another day without making these investments. There's no question. The economy of Western Mass, whether you're a sole proprietor, whether you're a business with multiple people, whether you're Representative Mark, who doesn't have internet service, we have to make sure we do it. We have to do it now. Transportation is essential. And we know that there is an unequal system of investment in Western Massachusetts. We know that. I believe in East-West Rail. I also believe very strongly in the north-south knowledge corridor. Governor Patrick worked with President Obama to obtain funding to begin to invest in this infrastructure north-south. There's been a lot of talk since then and no action. It is unacceptable. We need to make those investments so that everyone in Western Massachusetts has a fair chance. I'm committed to doing that as your governor.
Thank you. Our next question goes first to Mr. Gonzalez. What do you think is the role of unions today in the public and private sector, and how will you work to help the nurses of Franklin Medical Center get a fair contract?
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
What do you think is the role of unions today in the public and private sector, and how will you help the nurses at Franklin Medical Center get a fair contract?
So I think we need unions now more than ever. As Secretary of Administration and Finance, I actually, in that role, I was technically the employer for the executive branch of state government. The governor isn't, oddly. And so I was responsible for all collective bargaining and labor relations with the state's employee unions. And I had that job during the Great Recession, when we had lots of pressures, and I was responsible for managing the state budget, worst fiscal crisis the state had faced in decades, lots of pressures to find cost savings. And we had to make a lot of hard decisions. But it was my first experience dealing with the labor relations context, and I gained a great appreciation and respect for the collective bargaining process. It forced me and management to sit down and listen and talk with our representatives of our state employees and to understand their interests and to work with them collaboratively to figure out a way forward that worked in the best interest of the people of the Commonwealth while also recognizing the interests of our employees. And so I appreciated that process. And I think if you ask our state employee union heads, they would say that I was someone who listened and operated in good faith and worked with them to get positive outcomes. That is the approach I would take as governor. When it comes to M&A and contract negotiations with certain hospitals, one was just consummated at Tufts Medical Center in Boston. I did go and walk the picket line with the nurses in Boston when they were picketing for a 5-day period. And I do believe that we need unions to be strong so that we end up getting to the best outcome for the organization.
Thank you. And next, that goes to you, Mr. Massey.
I would like to point out that my friend Jay's wording was interesting here because he said that engaging with unions forced him to listen to their concerns. I don't have to be forced. I have worked with unions. I'm a member of a union. My wife is the secretary of her union. I believe that unions are fundamental to our democracy and our economy because they are one of the only forms of real countervailing power against those who want to depress wages in the seek of greater profits. I also just want to say I also want to say that specifically to nurses, here is a really good example. Nurses can be portrayed, oh, well, maybe they just want higher pay. No, this fight is about patient safety. And I can tell you, having been a patient, I went through my experiences with hemophilia and other medical challenges, which I just want to reassure you are completely gone. But I owe my own life and my own healing to many nurses over time. And I have experienced what it is when nurses have time to take care of you and when they don't. And as the various companies are seeking a way to suppress their wages, they don't suppress their own pay, by the way. The executives don't lower that. They want to lower the pay or freeze the pay or to increase the workload. So I believe that unions are essential. I also want to say unions need to evolve. We do not have the same economy that allows for massive collective bargaining between major industries and major unions. We have a much more dispersed economy. We have to think about new ways. There's a wonderful group called the Freelancers Union that has risen up for people in the gig economy. There are mechanisms for moving this forward. But I believe I would be the strongest supporter of working people and labor in governor's role for a long time. And I am deeply committed to moving forward on those core issues. I've also walked picket lines my whole career. This isn't a late conversion to progressive issues. It is what I've done for
Mr.
my
Massey,
life.
that is time. Mr. Warren.
I'm going to channel my cousin Elizabeth Warren on this answer. Kind of joke around. If I'm the nominee, we could do Warren and Warren. You know. Look, Warren, yes, sir. Look, over 40 or 50 years, the dismantling of public unions and built in unions and corporations has been a driver for the growth of economic inequality in this country. There is no question. What we've got to do right now is shine a light on that and be honest about the fact that we need strong public unions and private unions to ensure that the next generation of people in this state have a fighting chance to make a living. There is no question. And on the municipal side, in my 8 years as mayor, when I came in as mayor, there were 17, we got 17 unions, public unions in my city. All those contracts were up. I sat down in a budget crisis and we worked collaboratively. We put in place good, solid health care and benefits packages within our city to protect our people, as well as ensure we had financial sustainable pathway. And I did it again in the second round. In addition to that, we built all those public schools with union labor that I talked about in Newton. I was proud of the fact that we ensured we had union participation, strong union participation in building those. And I wasn't afraid to intervene when unions asked for my help in the city of Newton, like SEIU, with issues outside of the city. And I would do the same thing. If I'm governor, I'm going to be standing with those nurses, and we're going to sit down and figure out how to protect them. The same way I did in the city of Newton for our union. So I believe, and by the way, folks, keep an eye on the Supreme Court decision coming down in the next few months. This is where state and local government is important. We need a governor that's going to protect people in our state and our unions. So as I said, our folks have a fighting chance.
Thank you, that's time. And you get to continue because you're first for our next question. We had 11 questions on energy and the environment, and a summary of the major concerns. People want you to please explain your position on offshore oil drilling, offshore wind, biomass, and the climate challenge in general. Offshore oil drilling, offshore wind, biomass, and the climate challenge in general.
The climate challenge, I want to make sure I
I
answer.
think they mean climate change.
Oh, change. Climate change. Okay.
Tell us about the environment.
Okay. Just to take these through, we really, we have to move away from fossil fuels. This is why I'm against the infrastructure of these gas pipelines. We need to stop those. Offshore drilling, we need to stop what we're doing there. I do not believe the answer to our working our way towards renewable energy lies within burning wood and biomass. I believe it lies within investing in solar and wind. I do support offshore wind. I believe it makes a lot of sense. One of the places where I've seen some investment was under the Patrick administration, putting real investment in New Bedford. There's a real opportunity to build offshore wind so that we can actually promote this as opposed to slowing it down as Governor Baker is doing. Look, I think that it would be safe to say that on this stage you have three people that would be working in the exact opposite direction of this governor. There is no question Charlie Baker is promoting fossil fuels by trying to kill the solar program twice, which I fought him against, by slowing down offshore wind. We need a different way. If we're going to meet these targets, if we're going to address climate change in our state, and also address economic inequality, because I believe that when we address climate change, we can also address social